Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the CR Sports Podcast. Garrett, this is the last one that we have before we go off to college. This is the last night, as there's 13 minutes until Tuesday, as it's 11:47 on a Monday. But yeah, we're going tomorrow. I know you're going to Connecticut tomorrow, and I'm going to Syracuse tomorrow. So it's kind of a weird feeling, but it's all wrapping up fast.
Yeah, excited and nervous, but hopefully we'll still have a lot in person when we come home for breaks, and then obviously over the summer. I think we'll both be back in Rochester at least for the next couple summers. We'll see where it goes after there, but we're gonna try to get you guys some Zoom episodes.
We liked it last time.
I think it worked out pretty well. The audio was actually better than I was expecting, at least. I don't know about you, and the
Maybe
split
not as good as this, but
the split screen I think gave it a unique, different feel as well. So
probably a better feel.
yeah, no, I think it was sort of probably more pleasing on the eyes from this setup, but we'll see how it goes. Hopefully we can push out those episodes ideally once a week as we get into the swing with college football and the NFL and everything, but we also don't know exactly how our schedules are going to line up yet.
Yeah, we'll see what exactly we got going on when we figure it all out. Really, we're just going into it not really knowing how that's going to shape up, but we can assure you that there are going to be episodes like that, and it's really easy to do it. What we figured out and what we're able to do, and I think it's going to be pretty exciting to be able to do it on Zoom and just be able to do it virtually. Because what we did notice too is that it's super easy just to add somebody else in there. So if there's people that we want to have on the show, it makes it a lot more easier. It makes it a lot easier, and that's something that maybe you could see from the future, even though we're not going to be in person, but we could have a little bit more for you in that sense.
Yeah, but this setup and the just sending out a Zoom link, if you guys, know anyone or yourselves want to come on the podcast, we're definitely open to discussions and we want to start to bring more guests on and sort of expand. And we'll segue that right into our first ad read is we'd like to shout out Molly V's, the classic homemade ice cream store in the village of Victor. Get your homemade ice cream there today. I know my sister's been bringing home tons of it all summer after work, and it's still delicious every time. So be sure to stop in if you're ever in the Victor area.
Two things that go together when you talk about them. CR Sports and Molly V's. Still working to get our own flavor there, but it's a great place. We could not be happier to shout them out every single time. And the other one, this is the second time I'm doing it now, is Miranda Cheese in Waterloo. Just a great place. Tom Murray's a wonderful owner, and the Old Man cheddar that they got there, it's fabulous. It's some of the best cheddar cheese I've ever had. It's some of the best cheese I've ever had. There's plenty of options, but that one's my favorite. And if you're ever in the Finger Lakes area, if you're going out wine tasting, that's what a lot of people do. They go to wineries, they winery hop throughout a day as like an activity. Well, you can get some food, you get some cheese, and another nice view out in the Finger Lakes region. So Miranda Cheese in Waterloo, it's just a beautiful spot, and yeah, we're happy to shout them out again too.
Yeah, for all you cheese people out there, I
Hey,
know
yeah.
dairy products very popular in some households. So be sure to stop by Miranda Cheese as we'll sort of segue into the last in-person episode, at least for now, probably for the next couple months
Yeah.
as we go our separate ways, like you mentioned. But, still obviously going to keep in contact and stuff. As last episode, we sort of recapped the Olympics. Those officially came to an end about a week or two ago. Wrapping up USA, we mentioned winning the medal count, tying China with the gold count, 40 gold medals each. So another successful Summer Olympics for the U.S. And the next one will be coming here, LA 28.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. I think that'll be really cool to see in the U.S. because we haven't seen that in our lifetime for the United States to host an Olympics or the Summer Olympics, and that'll be really fun. Um, I think it's interesting that how they do cities for the Olympics.
Hmm.
Like it's L.A. 28 or it's Paris 24 instead of like the United States they host, or like how like the World Cup is the country hosts, or the Copa
Hmm.
America the U.S. hosted, but it was all over throughout the country.
Yep.
I think that would be cool to have throughout the country, but they're doing it in LA, so that makes the city like really cool, but it'd be really cool for a country to experience it as a whole.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be different in the U.S. I think it's probably going to be constrained to California, and a lot of it's in LA. But you saw with Paris, they just didn't have the venues to support everyone. There was events going on that were multiple hours away from Paris. So while it was called Paris 2024, there were plenty of events going on. I know the surfing was taking place in like where there's the biggest waves in the world, some coast that was like nowhere near Paris.
Right. It was just
So
like a French
yeah, they,
territory.
they call it Paris 2024, but it was really spread out all over France. I do think the U.S. is just such a big country that we're going to be able, and we already have a lot of the resources and a lot of the places to hold events like this with the LA Coliseum, SoFi Stadium. I think is where the swimming is going to be, so that's going to be epic. And then the World Cup's coming in just 2 years, so we're going to have the World Cup and then LA 2028, World Cup in 26,
yeah.
and then LA in 28. So it's going to be really exciting. Something that, two events that we don't have often. It's not like the Super Bowl, which takes place every year. The World Cup's only every 4 years, same with the Summer Olympics, and they don't often come to the U.S.
Yeah, no, so that's why it'll be a fun thing to see and mark your calendars, people, coming up. But, I mean, you still got 4 years away and 2 years away for the World Cup, but it'll be cool. But we didn't really get to talk about last time, Garrett, like the sports that are going on right now. We can talk about baseball for a little bit.
Yeah, I think
It's a little bit of the same old that you've been seeing. This is the dog days.
I think we can mention baseball a little, but I think I really want to, as we go to college, it's kind of feels like that fall season a little more. And when you think of fall, you think of football. So I think it's time to, start diving into, maybe fantasy football a little bit, some of the draft choices, some of the roster breakdowns. I know your Cowboys are still waiting to pay a bunch of guys.
A bunch of guys,
Stuff-
CeeDee Lamb, that's it.
Stuff like that. They're still waiting to extend Micah and Dak as well.
Micah's not getting extended this year. Micah can wait. Micah can wait till next offseason. He
We'll
just got that not going on
We'll
right
see about that, but as training camp and preseason gets underway, I know some of the rookies have looked really impressive in preseason, and then
now. Cowboys can.
2 weeks from this Thursday, I believe, is Ravens Chiefs first game of the season.
Yeah, that's coming up fast. Forgot about that, right?
Yep.
Because the opener's always on a Thursday. Yeah, so baseball's a lot of the same, so we're not going to really spend time on that, but just keep watching Aaron Judge produce and have a monster season. You look back in the history of baseball, you say guys like Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, these great Yankees, and just great baseball players as a whole, or Barry Bonds. I mean, kind of different with the asterisk mark on that because of steroids, but if you think about any historic season in any sport or any historic player in any sport, I guarantee you in 25, 50 years, that'll be the legend of Aaron Judge. And we're watching history right now. So to be in a moment and see that, it's just something that's really special and be a lot sweeter and have a lot better look on things if the Yankees could capture a World Series with him, which is something that they need to do with him on the team. But talking about football, it's really ramping up. The preseason's in play. Some teams, I think it's really odd. Like some teams play their starters in the preseason, and others just will not ever. Like the Cowboys will not do it, and that's something that I see. So it's like kind of makes the preseason more boring, but it also gives me a lot more to focus on during the preseason as a fan, seeing and saying who are these good players that we just drafted, seeing what we got with them, and I think it's odd that the Chiefs have played Mahomes and their starters in both games so far, and we just saw that crazy pass by Mahomes.
Yeah,
behind the back.
maybe that shows a sign of maybe Mahomes doesn't feel like he has that chemistry he's quite had with receivers in the past. I'm assuming he still has it with Kelsey, as he was the one that completed the behind the back pass too. But going back to the MLB, there's a lot of guys, a lot of teams clumped at the top, so it's kind of hard to tell. There's going to be a lot of close division races as well as the wild card race, but like you mentioned, there's still about 40 or 50 games to go. So there's still about a month and a half or so before playoff baseball comes upon us. So I say we just go maybe division by division, NFL wise, just breaking it down. Maybe pick the order of where we think the teams are going to finish, as well as a little analysis as to why and whether they're maybe they're taking a step up or a step down.
Where do you want to start off?
Let's just start off in the AFC East.
AFC East, okay. Well, AFC East, a lot of question marks in the AFC East. The question mark with the Bills is the receivers. What are they going to have without Stephon Diggs there? Is Khalil Shakir really a number 2 receiver? And they also have Curtis Samuel in the receiving core as well. So that's something that's very interesting with the Bills. What can Josh Allen do with that receiving core? Looking at the Jets, can Aaron Rodgers stay healthy, Garrett? That's the real question I have with the Jets. If Rodgers can stay healthy and the Jets can put together a season, he's got his good left tackle now in Tyron Smith. That could be something that is huge for the Jets. And just having Aaron Rodgers is something that they haven't had at a quarterback position since Joe Namath, in my opinion, because they have struggled and struggled and struggled at the quarterback position to find a franchise quarterback. Very similar ties to the Chicago Bears, in my opinion.
I was just going to say that.
And they have an opportunity now. I know Rodgers was hurt last year, and even his last season in Green Bay before he got hurt, it was underwhelming from an Aaron Rodgers standpoint. But still, Rodgers' worst seasons is better than any Jets quarterback season outside of Joe Namath, let's say, or Brett Favre had a couple good seasons or a good season with the Jets. That's really what you're looking at for the Jets. Dolphins, I think they're going to get worse. I think they kind of they went above their expectations last year, and I don't think Tua is really a great quarterback in this league. That's my opinion on Tua and the Dolphins. And the Patriots, Drake May. See what you got. That it's a learning year for them. It's a new coach with Mayo, so you're gonna see new things from the Patriots that you haven't seen in the past. I think it's not going to be the same Belichick era anymore, and it's just going to have a real new feel to it. But that's my breakdown of the AFC. So I want to know what you think about that.
Yeah, I think the Patriots pretty much going to be the Drake May show. You let him go out there and just see what he has. Let him ride the ups and downs of being a rookie in the NFL. It's probably not going to look all sunshine and rainbows at every point during the season, but I think you just have to leave him out there and see what you got and hope he's the franchise guy. I don't think there's many people expecting the Patriots to make the playoffs this year, so I think putting them at the bottom of the division is a pretty safe bet for me. And in third place, I think I'm going to go with the Dolphins. I think they'll be around 9-8, 10-7, just because they have Tyreek Hill and they have Jalen Waddle on the outside. They have so many weapons, and Mike McDaniels just runs this really unique offense, which I think plays into the hands of Tua, who he knows can't really sit in the pocket back there and make, contested throws and just fit it in tight spaces. He's more a guy who, get it out quick with a screen pass, let these guys make plays. So to Mike McDaniel's credit, I think he does really good with what he has. I just personally don't think Tua is in that elite tier of NFL quarterbacks yet, which is why I think the Dolphins have a ceiling. And I agree with you. I think they're going to take a little bit of a step back, and I think if they make the playoffs, I think they'll go out early. First and second to me,
Wait, let me say mine first. Then let's see what you say. I have the Bills still winning the division, and the Jets in second place just because I can't trust the Jets.
it's I've heard a lot. There's been so much hype around the Jets, and I think I'm gonna have to agree with you. I think the Bills are still gonna win it just because they have Josh Allen. Aaron Rodgers is 40 now, coming off a torn Achilles. I know he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, but at some point you'd think his age is gonna catch up to him, and his body's not gonna be able to move as well. Mike Williams is coming off a torn ACL, I believe. He barely played at all last year.
Yeah, he not much.
I will say I'm very excited to see what Garrett Wilson can do with somebody other than whatever the Jets have been putting out at quarterback the last few years. So that's going to be exciting. I think the Jets will make the playoffs, and I think the Bills are still going to win the division. I think the Dolphins might just miss it. So I'm going to put the Bills and the Jets in with the AFC East, the Jets being the wild card team, and they're going to be really exciting to watch, I think. I'm very interested to see how Aaron Rodgers fits in there.
This is what I have different from you. I think if the Jets are a playoff team, like you're saying right now, I think if they're even that good or if they're in that realm of teams, I think the Jets win the division. I think the problem I see with the Jets is that they're either going to be a division winner, be one of the top teams in the AFC, and be better than the Bills, or I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I don't see an in between with the Jets, just from the standpoint of, is Rodgers going to stay healthy, and is Rodgers going to produce? We haven't seen anything with him in a Jets uniform so far in his career, so that's where the big question mark is, and that's what I worry about with the Jets. So I think the Bills are good. I think the Bills are worse. Matt Milano tore his bicep too. He's not going to be back till December. We'll see if what he can do. He's one of the best defensive players in the league, and he's a huge piece for the Bills. So that's a terrible loss for them, and I really think that's going to hurt them a ton, and it's more than what people think. If they didn't think it was a big deal losing Matt Milano for that long, it's a huge deal. Losing Stephon Diggs, I know he fell off last year in the second half. That's a huge deal. What can Keon Coleman do? We don't know. So there's a lot of unknowns with the AFC East, but I'm going to tell you this, Garrett. I think if the Jets are a team that's winning 10-plus games in the playoffs, I think they're going to win the division. But I'm still going to make my pick as the Bills are going to win the division because I just don't trust the Jets.
So you're saying the Bills are going to be the only AFC East team in then? Because you had the Jets finishing second.
Yes.
All right, so one.
But I would think it's either going to be one or it'll be two with the Jets winning the division, Bills wild card. I can see a Bills wild card. That I wouldn't be surprised with that.
I'm going Bills winning the division, Jets wild card, and then we'll move on to the AFC North next. Steelers, Ravens, Bengals, Browns. One of if not the best divisions last year. A little shakeup at quarterback for the Steelers. Deshaun Watson, sort of his first full season, I guess, in Cleveland now. And then Lamar, and then Joe Burrow coming back for the Bengals after being out most of last year. I still think it's going to be the Ravens division just because they have Lamar. They have John Harbaugh. they're so well coached. They have a reliable tight end, and their defense is going to be solid again. So I still think they're going to edge out who I think will be in second. I think I got to go back to the Bengals. Just Joe Burrow, he plays really good football when he's in there. And I know, maybe they lost Tyler Boyd in the offseason. I think
Yeah,
T Higgins. They still have T Higgins and Jamar Chase, which will be nice. Losing Joe Mixon as well at running back.
that's big.
Zach Moss, I think, is going to slot in at starter now there. So I think they're going to take a step back from where they were when they made those runs a couple years ago, back-to-back AFC or I don't know if it was back-to-back, but I know they beat the Bills a couple years ago, and then they almost beat the Chiefs. Or no, they went to the Super
They
Bowl.
went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, going to
and
the
they beat
Super
the
Bowl.
Bills, so it was back to back.
Yeah,
You're right.
so it was back-to-back AFC championship. So I think they're going to be a little worse than that, but I still put them at like 11-6 or so. And then in third, I think I'm going to go to the Browns just because they're so talented. David Njoku, Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy now from the Broncos, Nick Chubb once he comes back in that backfield. Deshaun Watson just has so many weapons to work with, and they're one of the highest rated defenses as well. I know by fantasy projections, they're like projected to be the best defense. So I think they're going to be right around that 10-7 range, 11-6 range as well.
In third place, that's crazy.
In third place. And then I think the Steelers, whether they keep their winning streak alive, I think they're going to be right around 8-9, 9-8, but in last. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I ask that Justin Fields is the starter
Really?
just because I think their potential and their ceiling is so much higher with Justin Fields.
Why that?
Because he can do things that Russell Wilson can't do. He can make so many more plays with his legs that Russell Wilson, at his age now, isn't able to do. I think
Okay, with his legs, but I think that throwing the ball, I would still say right now, who's the better passer? It's Russell Wilson.
I'm not saying that Justin Fields is a better passer. I'm just saying I think the Steelers' ceiling is higher with Justin Fields at quarterback. I think he can make off-schedule plays and do things that Russell Wilson quite can't do. If you want him, who's going to turn the ball over less, who's going to be more reliable, I think it's Russell Wilson. And I think that's why he's going to end up being the starter. But I think, in my opinion, they should throw out Justin Fields and let him play the season and see what you have in him instead of, going to Russell Wilson, a guy in Denver who didn't look too great,
No.
and then you just have Justin Fields rotting on the bench.
Yeah, that's something that you could worry about as a Steelers fan. I can understand that because you want to see if you got something in this young guy still. But I think it is going to be Russell Wilson. But when I go with my division for this, the Bengals are still a really good team when they're healthy and playing well. But we saw them healthy last year in the beginning of the season. Joe Burrow didn't look like the guy that went to two straight NFC or AFC championships, excuse me, and the guy that was competing with Mahomes at the top of the quarterback position in the NFL. That seemed like it was a conversation. It seems like that has faded, and it's kind of like, no, Mahomes is in his own category, and rightfully so after winning 3 out of the last 4 Super Bowls. But I still think the Bengals are a really good team, but I don't see them in front of the Ravens either, Garrett. I think the Ravens are super strong, and as somebody who was skeptical of Lamar Jackson throughout his career, I even during his MVP season in 2021, because it was like, well, what do you do in the playoffs? Well, nothing. They went to the AFC Championship. They lost to the Chiefs. They lost to the Chiefs, who've gone to what 6, 7 straight AFC championships. It's insane.
It's ridiculous.
And they've won 3 of the last 4 Super Bowls. They won back-to-back Super Bowls. They're in a dynasty right now. I still have the Ravens as the top team in the AFC North, and that's what I see right there. So it goes Ravens, Bengals, and I have to agree with you on this with the Browns. But with I see 3 playoff teams in this division, which is crazy with one division taking up 2 wild card spots, and that's another reason why, going back to what I was talking about earlier with the AFC East, I don't have the Jets in the playoffs. They could. I mean, you could see them getting that 3rd wild card spot, but I could just I as we go throughout the AFC, I could see other teams just being a little bit more secure making that pick from my standpoint. But the Steelers will be interesting with the 2 quarterbacks because they're both fighting it out. But I think it'll be Russell Wilson, and if you see any remnants of what it was like in Denver, it's going to be done quick, and I think it's going to be Justin Fields' time. Although Wilson wasn't as bad last season in Denver, if it was anything like 2 seasons ago, he's out.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just something new and something that's not Kenny Pickett is exciting to see in Pittsburgh, even if it's not drafting a guy high or signing or trading for some crazy quarterback. It's something different. So I think I'm going to agree with you. putting 3 teams in from this division, I just think it's a loaded division, which leaves no wild card
Best
spots.
division in football.
I agree. I think it's the best division in football, which for me leaves no wild card spots for the other 2 divisions. The next one we'll go to is the AFC South. I think it's the Texans to lose at this point with the way they really just surprised everyone last year. Then they go get Joe Mixon. They get Stephon Diggs. This offense is loaded now. Nico Collins, C.J. Stroud, Tank Dell,
Stephon Diggs,
and Joe Mixon. This offense is loaded. I think the defense will be good enough.
Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, Dalton Schultz, a tight end as well. He's not one of the elite tight ends, but he's
All right.
definitely a serviceable tight end in the NFL. As for the rest of the division, I think the Jaguars and Colts are going to be tied up for that second and third spot. I'm going to give it to the Colts because of how well I thought Anthony Richardson looked last year. I know he's coming off of an injury now, but in his second year, he looked really, comfortable for a rookie, which is not what you see a lot of the time. And I think Jonathan Taylor being back now, there's no holdout or anything. Whatever was going on with him last year, he's fully back. They got Michael Pittman. They got some weapons. I think they're a pretty well-coached team now. And the Jaguars, for me, in third place, Trevor Lawrence hasn't taken that next step that I wanted him to be. I know rookie season, he was sort of like the prodigy kid, and he was all right. And then the second and third year, he was like, he's good, but he's not great. He's not making these throws downfield into these tight windows that, the elite guys do. And I think he's starting to become a little overrated, and I don't really know if he can be that long-term answer in Jacksonville.
Well, everyone thought that he was going to be, and he was like, well, this guy's not going to be a problem after that playoff win that they had, the absolute stunner to come back against the Chargers at home. But since then, last season was very underwhelming, and I agree with you with that. But at the same time, I really think this Jacksonville team could sneak into the playoffs. I could see them getting a wild card spot, getting that third wild card spot. And it's really tough for me to make the pick for the third wild card spot because all the teams that I see in fighting for that position, I have no assurance about any of them, and that's why it's the third wild card spot. It used to not be a third wild card spot. This is a new thing that they've done in the NFL where they have the super wild card weekend. First 2 teams used to get the bye, and honestly, that's something that I like better in the NFL. I know like people like more playoff games, and that's what it brings. But I think it means something to be the top 2 team in your conference, and I think getting rewarded with that with the bye is huge, and it just helps out tremendously. But it does make it, I guess, more fun as a fan perspective, watching more games. But when it's like my own team and they're like a 2 seed and they have to play in a wild card game against the 7 seed and they get blown out by the Packers, it's just tough. It's tough to deal with, and it means that they weren't as good of a team as you thought they were, but I still think you should be rewarded for something like that because all these 7 seeds that I'm looking at in this AFC conference, Garrett, the Jets possibly. I don't know what this. I have no idea what it's going to be like with Aaron Rodgers. The Jaguars possibly, the Colts possibly. What is Anthony Richardson? What is Trevor Lawrence? What is his weapons? They have Gabe Davis now down there. Calvin Ridley's gone. He wasn't good last year. Evan Ingram. I don't know. What do they have? Travis Etienne. It's a lot of question marks, especially on the defensive side of the ball with them. Then you're looking at the other divisions out in the AFC West that we'll get to in a minute. What are the Chargers? No one knows under this Jim Harbaugh now. So there's a lot to figure out here, but with the AFC South, I do have the Texans winning it, and I think the Texans are going to be a very good team. I think C.J. Stroud is a franchise quarterback and then some. I think he's got all the makings of becoming a great quarterback in this league. You see a lot of guys jump from first year to second year, huge gains from just 1 year to another, and that's something I think you're going to see with C.J. Stroud. He's going to be even better than he was last year. And then it's Colts or Jaguars, and I can't make up my mind. I guess I go Colts. I think I'm going to agree with you. Colts, then Jaguars, just because of what the Colts were able to do fighting with a playoff position last year with Gardner Minshew. And I think I liked what I saw out of Anthony Richardson before he got hurt last year. And I was surprised to see that. I was not high on him coming into the league and out of the draft. And yeah, that's what I have in the AFC South. It really, what are you dealing with? Not sure exactly. And I think the Titans and Will Levis are at the bottom.
I was gonna say there's one team we haven't mentioned yet, that being the Tennessee Titans.
I don't think Will Levis is going to be a good quarterback in the NFL, and that's just what I believe.
I think he can be, a low end starter or a backup. I don't think he's a franchise guy. And
I also think losing Derrick Henry's
and I don't think the
massive.
rest of the Titans roster is very good either. So I mean, they got Kelvin Ridley, but like, is he really the answer to solve this offense? I don't think so. The Titans are a pretty safe fourth place for me. So I have just the Texans making the playoffs. I think the Colts and the Jaguars both miss out. I think they're close, knocking on that door. I think there's going to be a lot of teams knocking on that door, but I don't think they get in. Moving to the AFC West, it's the Chiefs division, and I think it's going to stay that way. The Chargers, I do think, will be a lot more competitive with Jim Harbaugh, especially last year. That was just like a weird year. Mike Williams getting hurt, and then
Brandon
Justin
Staley was a
Herbert
terrible
being out as
coach.
well. Brandon Staley felt like he should have been fired as soon as he got the
It
job.
was awful.
This is sort of a new look Chargers, maybe a lot more ground and pound, which is what Jim Harbaugh loved. First in San Francisco, and then at Michigan, winning a national championship, doing it last year. So I think the Chargers are going to show, signs of new life. I think whenever a new head coach comes in, it just the team gets a lot more excited. They're playing for someone new. But I don't think the Chargers make the playoffs. I think they just miss out as well. And then I think the Raiders and Broncos are going to be pretty weak this year. The Raiders just don't have their quarterback yet. I love Antonio Pierce as a coach, and they still have Devontae Adams, and they got now Brock Bowers as well in the draft. I just don't.
And
think,
Michael Mayer. They have
Yeah.
a lot of tight ends.
I just don't think they have their coach yet. And then for the Broncos, I think Bo Nix is going to be the starter. I'm a fan of Bo Nix. I don't think he's, he was in college for like 6 years, so he's got a ton of experience. I think he can be the future there, but I'm going to go Chiefs in first, then Chargers. I'll put the Raiders in third just because I think they're going to grind out wins, and then I'll put the Broncos in last.
All right. This is what I got in the AFC West. I have the Chiefs. Regardless, you don't need anything more to say about them. We already talked about how they've won 3 out of the last 4 Super Bowls. Anyways, I see this division. There's a team clearly in first. There's a team clearly in last. The team that's clearly in last is the Las Vegas Raiders. I watched them play in their preseason game with a battle at the quarterback position with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew the other night when they played against the Cowboys. All of their starters played outside of Devontae Adams and like new Brock Bowers now.
They just they named Gardner Minshew the starter for Week 1.
Yeah, they're in a quarterback battle. And guess what? Gardner Minshew looked horrible. Aiden O'Connell didn't look good. The Cowboys' backups against the Raiders' offensive line, like the lines going against each other, Cowboys didn't play a single starter besides like borderline fringe guys that are like sub in. I was just shocked, really, Garrett. I mean, they were even. It was an even matchup. The Cowboys won. They were winning the whole time. It was really just not impressive what I saw from the Raiders. I think the Raiders are going to be historically bad. I think this is a 10-plus loss team. I think they're really terrible. I think they're a double-digit loss team. Not good. Clearly in last place of this division. And there's 2 things in my head with the Chargers and Broncos that I'm trying to figure it out. With Bo Nix and the Broncos, I'm all in. I'm all in on Bo Nix. I think he's going to be a really good quarterback in this league. And you know what? I think he could be. This is what I think. I'm not saying this could happen because I think it's rare and it doesn't happen a lot. But I think he could be the C.J. Stroud and the Texans of last year. I think they could be that surprise team that's like, oh, we got this young guy that really does something for us early on. I think they could be that. But I'm more all in on the Jim Harbaugh getting his hands on Justin Herbert. That's what I'm excited about in the AFC West. So in that sense, I'm putting the Broncos at 3, but I think it's a really impressive 9-8 season for them, or 8-9 seasons for them, where you got hope for the future. So I'm not thinking it's going to be a complete Texans leap like they had last year with playoff success, but it's one of those leaps where you go, oh, this team will be good. Like they do have a quarterback, they do have a guy where you go, all right, there's something there. And I think with the Chargers, I'm not picking the Chargers to make the playoffs. I'm picking Jim Harbaugh to make the playoffs. I think Jim Harbaugh is a really good coach in this league. You're able to see what he was able to do with San Francisco, and that's what I'm excited about with the Chargers. And I think we're really now we're going to find out, is Justin Herbert a good quarterback or not? He's had great throws in the regular season. He's had great stats at times. At other times in the playoffs, he's been a choke artist. It's been bad. It hasn't gone well. And you're really going to figure out what he got because guess what? You have a great coach with Jim Harbaugh. and I got the Chargers in second. And if I had to pick, if I had a gun to my head and I had to pick, I'm picking them to get the third wild card spot over the Jets, in my opinion, but
So-
slightly.
So I think we had 6 out of the 7 same teams. I think I slid the Jets in as a wild card, and you had the Chargers. So now we'll do one for each conference.
It's like March Madness all over again. Not good.
Let's pick a team, that a lot of people are expecting not, maybe isn't going to be great. Maybe a team in the AFC that you think can surprise a lot of people and maybe steal the wild card from one of those
The
teams.
Broncos. That's my pick. I think Bo Nix and this team. If let's talk about the upside and not go with the safety picks that we're going with right now. I got the Broncos and Bo Nix getting in that wild card spot. A first, second, or third wild card spot. I could see that happening with like a 10-win team, depending on how hard the AFC North is, because they have to play each other. So realize that. So the records aren't going to be phenomenal. I don't think one team's going to really beat up on one that crazy in that division. So that's where you could see the records not be the best for those 3 teams that we talked about, as they got to play each other twice. But and when they play the Steelers too, I guarantee the Steelers are going to beat beat the Browns. What am I missing here? The Browns,
Bengals
and Ravens, and I think that'll be something that we have to look to when you're talking about 2 teams getting a wild card spot from a division, because that's really tough. And I could also see the Jets going to the AFC Championship game, facing off against Mahomes, not winning, but
Getting there.
I can't.
Getting there.
Maybe winning. I don't know. I just can't see anybody beating Mahomes. That's really where I stand, and I'm going to continue to have that standpoint. I got the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Why not? If like he could do it with his team last year, why can't he do it again? It's just so impressive what this guy's been able to do. But that's my surprise. I got either the Broncos or the Jets at the top of ceilings of surprise teams in the AFC.
Yeah, I'm not as high on the Broncos as you are. When I look at a surprise team, I don't think it's going to be the Steelers, and I have the other 3 teams in the playoffs. I don't think the Dolphins would be much of a surprise. I just also don't think they're gonna be amazing. The Patriots,
Their ceiling, in my opinion, is to win a wild card
yeah,
game. Like that's
and then
it.
the Patriots and the Raiders, they're just and the Titans, they don't quite have the talent. So for me, I'm gonna go with the Colts. I think the Colts, their ceiling, I think they could make it to an AFC Championship.
Wow.
I think they could be that good. I'm not saying they're gonna. I don't even have them making the playoffs, but I think they could definitely win a game, and if they get a favorable matchup, they could win another one. Just Anthony Richardson, maybe they surprise everyone. Maybe they win the division. Maybe they beat the Texans, get a home playoff
Come
game
on,
or
show some
2.
guts. Put them in their third wild card spot. Do it.
It's my surprise team for a reason. We're keeping them out of the playoffs for now, and now we can move on to the NFC and what's probably your favorite division in football.
We'll start off with the NFC East, the best division in football from a standpoint of historic success in Super Bowls. At the top of the NFC East, this is something that is a challenging pick every single year for people to make. There hasn't been a repeat since, I think, 2005, a repeat champion. The Cowboys won it last year. And I just don't know what to expect with this Dallas team, and I don't know what to expect with this Philly team. I don't know what to expect with this Washington team with new Jaden Daniels at the quarterback position. I think I know what to expect with the Giants. I don't think they're going to be good.
I'm personally safely putting the Giants in last as long
Me
as
too.
Daniel Jones.
So
is
let's go from the
their
bottom up.
quarterback.
I'm going to have the Giants in last. I think Washington is in third, but I think that their ceiling, like how we're talking about surprise teams, if Jaden Daniels is the real deal, this team could be a second place finisher in the NFC East. I don't see them winning it in any scenario. I got the Eagles in second. I think that you really saw how Jalen Hurts struggled at times in the end of last season, especially in the regular season, and the playoffs was just a total disaster for them. And now they're losing Jason Kelsey, a guy that makes that offensive line. That's a huge loss for them. They're losing guys like Fletcher Cox. Their older guys are leaving. They're getting a big help in the secondary. C.J. Gardner-Johnson coming back from the Lions. That's what they needed. And they drafted people in the secondary. Their corners were awful last year. Bradbury was terrible. We'll see what the Eagles have, and then the big addition is Saquon. Saquon is always, the question mark with him is, can he stay healthy? He was able to last season, but he's with a worse offensive line of the Eagles, and that's why I'm not as high on them. Losing Jason Kelsey is huge. The offensive line is way worse without him. He makes that whole tush push and makes everything else. And I think Hurts is just a decent quarterback in the NFL. He's a little bit above average. You love him in fantasy because he gets those tush push touchdowns. And I got the Cowboys in first, and not by a lot, and I'll tell you why. I am not high on this Dallas team really at all. I'm just more I'm high on the draft picks that the Cowboys have added to this year. I think the same is with Dak. With Dak, you go, he's a great regular season quarterback, and that is something that you need when winning a division. The Cowboys have won 12 games each of the last 3 years in a row. 3 years of 12-win seasons. Has it translated in the playoffs? No, but that's not what we're talking about. With the draft, Dallas went out and drafted Tyler Guyton, a guy that was questionable in college. People weren't super high on. I have watched Tyler Guyton this preseason, watched him in training camp, and I'm certain, Garrett, that this guy is going to be a Pro Bowl or All-Pro left tackle in the NFL. I think he's going to be a beast. You can kind of get a feeling instantly with offensive linemen with how they're going to play. It's very rare where they're terrible and they translate to good. It's usually they come in very good and they stay very good for a long time until injury. I think Guyton is a total hit, and I think the fourth round draft pick, or third in Cooper Beebe, is another huge one from Kansas State. Putting him at center is going to be big for the Cowboys. That's something that they've been working with now in training camp. And then adding it on with Tyler Smith, your left guard position, and just another all-pro guy that they've drafted. It feels like Dallas, when they draft offensive linemen in the first round, they always hit. And that's something that Jerry Jones and Will McClay have done really well. They're not good at drafting interior defensive linemen or defensive linemen in the first round, but they are at offensive linemen. They hit just about every time, and I think they hit again with Tyler Guyton. And having your blind side be protected very strongly is something that is very important in the NFL, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Question is with CeeDee Lamb, and we can talk about that, is when he's going to get going for Dallas. But I'll show you this: CeeDee Lamb will be playing for the Cowboys this season. I am very confident in saying that. And I got Dallas at the top again, and I think it's another 10, 11, 12-win season for them, double-digit win season, and then it's just a crapshoot, and we'll talk about the playoffs when we get there.
Yeah, I agree with you starting with the bottom team. I think as long as Daniel Jones is the quarterback for the Giants, maybe they can sneak into a playoffs again. That was kind of weird, but I just don't think they're going really anywhere with him at quarterback.
They won all those games at very small margins.
Throwing 2 picks the other day in preseason, one of them being a pick six.
That looked awful.
He's not the answer in New York, and I think the sooner they realize that, the sooner they can start the rebuild in the right direction. I think Malik Nabers is a really good player. I just don't think that he's what the Giants need right now. They need offensive linemen, and they need a quarterback. So we'll see what he does there. The Commanders, I think, have a very high potential with Jaden Daniels. I think they're a team who could start off kind of slow and then start creeping up on teams as the season gets going and Jaden Daniels gets more comfortable in that offense. You know, they've signed a lot of veterans, like the addition of Austin Eckler, other guys like that. I don't think he's going to be, this huge impact player, but he's a guy who in the locker room, he's a good guy to have. He's been around the league for a while. Hopefully Terry McLaurin can finally have that season I think he's capable of with that star quarterback, which I think Jaden Daniels can and will be in his career. I think he might even win Rookie of the Year. I think he's just going to have a really good year. I love his balance between his arm and his legs as well. And then you look at the top 2 teams. I think 2 teams that are trending down but are still going to be at the top of the division. I think we're going to stick with no repeat champion. I think the Cowboys are going to be second. The Eagles are going to be first. The Cowboys, without CeeDee Lamb, I don't think the Cowboys are a real threat in the NFC.
He's going to play, though.
I never said he wasn't. I just said if they don't have CeeDee Lamb, I don't think the Cowboys are a real threat in the NFC because I think he just makes their offense so much more dynamic. And, maybe it takes him a couple weeks to get going without practicing yet, but I think he will be back in there. He's going to sign eventually. We'll see how they handle the money with eventually. I know Dak wants to sign, and then Micah's going to want money eventually as well. So that'll be interesting to track. But I think the Cowboys are going to be right around that 11-6, 12-5 area. And I think the Eagles are just going to be a little better, maybe by a
13
game.
wins?
The Cowboys could be 11-6. The Eagles could win the division at 11-6. They could have the same record. They could have the tiebreaker.
I can't see the Eagles winning 13 games.
I never said they were going to win 13
Well, if you say the Cowboys win 12, then
I said 11 or 12.
All right.
And the Eagles could have the same record and win the division. So they could have the tiebreaker. You never know. I just think that Saquon Barkley, is one of, if not the best running backs in the league. He was running behind a terrible offensive line in a box that was so loaded because no one feared Daniel Jones throwing the ball. Finally, he's going to have somewhat of a more open box with what the Eagles have as weapons on the outside in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So I just think we're going to finally get to see Saquon's full potential, which I'm really excited to see. And I think Jalen Hurts will do enough. I don't think, he's obviously not in that tier with Mahomes or anyone else up there, but I think he's going to be a good enough, serviceable quarterback for this year. We'll see. I think Nick Sirianni's going to avoid the hot seat another year. He's going to win the division, which I don't think is valid enough to fire him, although I don't really like him as a head coach. So we'll see. But for me, I could see their team winning it. I could maybe see the Commanders winning it. Probably not likely. But I think it's sort of a toss-up with those top two.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I got Dallas just from the standpoint of the Eagles they looked so rough at the end of last regular season, as we're talking about regular season here, and the secondary was such an issue that they really have to fix it with everything that they got. So they got a hit on everything, and that's to be determined. So we'll see how that works out for Philly. But I when I look at picking a division when it's this close, I'm going to look at the quarterback position, and I'm much more confident in Dak Prescott. I'm actually I am extremely confident in Dak Prescott in the regular season. Make sure you put that in parentheses. In the regular season, I'll take Dak up. His numbers are just as good as any quarterback in the NFL. The numbers he had last year were MVP numbers. He and Mahomes had very similar numbers last year. Dak actually had less picks. Dak threw for the most touchdowns in the league last year. If he really, considering everything, if the Cowboys went to the NFC Championship game or they went to the Super Bowl, Dak Prescott could have been your MVP from last season. He was phenomenal. Kind of like how you saw it with Matt Ryan and the Falcons in 2016. Matt Ryan led that team to the Super Bowl, ended up losing to the 28-3 game. But his numbers were so good, it's not like they're going to give that regular season MVP to Brady. I think that's what it was kind of like what you're dealing with. I really think that Hurts just is not an elite quarterback, and especially I see him make mistakes that I would if I were an Eagle fan, I would just be like this isn't the long term solution. What you had with Jalen Hurts and why it worked so well for the Eagles and why they made it to the Super Bowl is I think, and I'll double down on this, Garrett. I think historically they had one of the greatest offensive lines this league has ever seen. They had that year in 2022 and 2023 that they made it to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs and they lost. Their offensive line was so phenomenal, and Hurts had such a clean pocket almost every time he threw, and the running lanes were so huge, is that it just made it so much easier to play quarterback. And with a weaker offensive line, and you've seen the blueprint on how to get to Hurts and how he makes mistakes, that's where I see the Eagles faulting and just not winning the division at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, winning the division is a regular season thing. It's just Dak's postseason performances have not been there, and at the end of the day, Hurts has made a Super Bowl. So we'll see how it plays out. You said it, he's a good regular season guy. He just hasn't really showed up in the playoffs much. So if we're picking the division winner, it does come down to the regular season because the postseason doesn't put that in. I just think Saquon Barkley was such a good addition to the Eagles team, and like I said, I think both these teams, are going to be a little worse than last year, but one team in the NFC East has to win it, and I think that's going to be the Eagles, not by a very big margin though.
Yeah, so now, all right, that was a lot on the NFC East. Let's go to the NFC North. This is a really interesting division. You got the Lions, who were in the NFC Championship game last year. You got the Bears, who just got Caleb Williams. The Vikings, who unfortunately just lost J.J. McCarthy to an injury, but they got Sam Darnold at the quarterback position. And you got the Packers with Jordan Love, who was the surprise from last season in the playoffs. I'll go first on this, Garrett. I think the Packers and Jordan Love, I think they're going to win the division. I think they're going to be better than the Lions. I got the Lions in the second spot. Just to give you in order, go Packers, Lions. I'm going to go Bears, and I'm going to go Vikings. I don't think Sam Darnold is a starting quarterback in the NFL. I think he'll get an opportunity again, and good for him. That's what he can do. But prove me wrong, Sam. I don't think you're a starting quarterback in the NFL, and we'll see about that. But I really think that Caleb Williams could have a nice year where you go, oh, they got something here for the future. But I don't think it's this year yet for the Bears when they're knocking on that door. So I got the Packers beating out the Lions for the division because of what I saw from Jordan Love, especially in the playoffs. He was so good, and he got so much better throughout the last season. It just seems like the Packers have hit again on another quarterback, and I'm buying in. I know the Lions were really good last year. I'm not a fan as big of a fan as Jared Goff. I think he's a good quarterback in the league. He's done really good things. He had a really good season. He's had really good seasons before, but I think he's inconsistent, and I don't really trust him overall. I rather have Jordan Love than Jared Goff at this point, and I'm not a big Dan Campbell fan. I know everybody else is. I'm not. I'll take Matt LaFleur. I think he's a great coach in this league, and I got the Packers reclaiming their crown at the NFC North.
I agree with you from the bottom two teams. I just don't think Sam Darnold's going to be good enough. He does have some nice weapons with Jordan Addison, and then I hope we get a full season of Justin Jefferson. I know he had the hamstring issue last year. He is, I think, the best wide receiver in the NFL right now. He's just absolutely so talented. So I just don't think the Vikings have enough, though, especially with Sam Darnold. And you compare him to the other quarterbacks in this division, and I think it's pretty obvious that he's the worst one. And I'm going to put the Bears in third, and I think Caleb Williams is going to do really special things in this league. I think he's going to have a really good rookie of the year. Him and Jaden Daniels, I think, are going to be very impressive. I just don't think the Bears have quite enough around him yet. Although they did add Keenan Allen, they've added some other good weapons as well. They still have DJ Moore, Cole Kmet at tight end. I think it's going to be an exciting offense, which is not really what we see with the Bears normally. It's usually, sort of the defense picking up the slack, and the offense is just trying to get by.
All throughout history.
It really is. And so I think the Bears are finally going to sort of flip that script, and they're going to have a really exciting offense. And I think Caleb Williams is going to look really good.
Is he going to be their first franchise quarterback in Bears
I think
history?
he's definitely going to be the franchise quarterback for the Bears. So I put them right in that 8 and 9, 9 and 8 category maybe, which would be, I think a 3 or 4 win leap from last year. And then I have the Packers in second. I have the Lions winning the division again. I think I am sold on what Jordan Love was able to do. I know it was sort of just for the second half. They got off to a rough start, but then you saw what they were able to do not only there but also in the playoffs. They took San Francisco, gave them a really good game.
Should have won, in my
in
opinion.
San Francisco, which was very impressive for, I guess Jordan Love isn't that young because he was sitting.
But
behind
he
Aaron
was
Rodgers
he
for
was
3
a
years, but
basically a rookie.
yeah, he was pretty much a rookie because it was really his first year starting. I love their wide receiving core. I think they're really balanced. I don't know if they have that true number one, but it feels like they have 3, 4, 5 guys that are really good. I think the Lions are bringing back a lot of last year's team. They were up 17 at halftime on the 49ers with a chance to go to the Super Bowl. They were really they finally won the division. They finally got a couple playoff wins for the first time in many people's lives. It was so excited to see good football being played in Detroit. And while I don't think Jared Goff is as good as Jordan Love, he's been to a Super Bowl with the Rams. He was a good half away from going to a Super Bowl last year with the Lions. I love Dan Campbell. I just love the way he fires his team up. I love his aggressiveness going for it on fourth down. It doesn't always work out.
Yeah,
but
it doesn't. That's
but
why
he
that's why
said-
they didn't make the Super Bowl, because of him.
There was lots of reasons. They turned the ball over. They didn't make every play they could have. It wasn't just his fault. But he said, this is how I'm going to coach, and I love that he sticks to it. And I just think with Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, they have really good weapons around Jared Goff. And I think they're going to repeat in the division for the first time in who knows when.
I think what you look for in an NFL coach is somebody who's not going to act like a fan and be rational and act with their mind. I think Dan Campbell's too much with his heart, and he's just right away emotionally into it way too much, where it dilutes and just changes his thought process because he's so fired up about some call or some play, or we're going for it here no matter what. Well, Dan, let's react to the situation. What does it really make sense for you? I think that's really the big problem with him, and that's why I wouldn't be a fan of him if he's coaching my team. I'm not sold on the Dan Campbell thing. I think he's a great motivator. I just don't think he's going to be. I don't think he's a great head coach in my opinion. Everyone else does. I know I'm the black sheep in this, but that's what I'm saying with Dan Campbell. I just don't trust him, and I have reason to not trust him. I don't. The calls that he made, going for it on fourth down, not taking your points in the NFC Championship game, it cost them, and that's something that I think will cost the Lions some games too. In just playing regular games, yeah, it all worked out last year. Everything worked to perfection until the NFC Championship game. It felt like, and guess what? And then reality struck. Oh, here's what happens when you sometimes make these calls, Dan, and that's what I think is going to happen to the Lions. And it's not going to be as good of a season. I think Jordan Love and this Packers team is just so solid. around around the board. They're just really solid. They're a really solid team, and I think Jordan Love is going to become one of these elite quarterbacks in the league that you talk about in the top 5 conversation.
Yeah, I just there's no other way to put it. I just don't quite agree with you. I think say two things about Dan Campbell. I'd love to play for him, and he's taken this Lions team to a place they have not been in a very long time, and you can't deny that. So while his his calling might lose him some games, it's also going to win him some games. So we'll move on now to the NFC South, a division where it feels like maybe starting to turn the page a little bit. Last year, probably the worst division in football. We'll start from the bottom up again. I think the Panthers are going to be repeat last place, maybe repeat worst team in the NFL.
I think the
I'm not-
Raiders are the worst team.
I'm not very high on Bryce Young. I just don't think the Raiders have a lot of, or the Panthers, excuse me, have a lot of talent on their team.
No,
There's not really any other way to put it there.
I'm high on Xavier Legette. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, there's a couple players that I can see being 10+ years NFL guys, but Bryce Young, I don't think he's going to be the answer. But it's hard to get
We'll
a
see.
real read on him with what they've surrounded him
I
with.
wouldn't judge Bryce yet. I'd give him this year.
Yeah, that's what I like. What he has around him, it's not really fair to judge him. Third place, I'm gonna put the Saints. Derek Carr, I don't think is the answer. Dennis Allen is not a very good coach in my opinion. I think he's one of the worst coaches in the NFL, and I think he's gonna get fired at some point during the season. And then the top two, I like the Falcons finishing in first and the Bucks winning in second. I know the Bucks won last year, even won a playoff game over the Eagles. Baker Mayfield's a little too inconsistent for my liking. I know they have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin who are so solid out there, but the Bucks team I think is going to be around 500. I don't love this division. I do love the Falcons
They've
going
made so
out-
many moves.
going out and getting Kirk Cousins and then adding to the defense these past couple
Jesse
weeks as
Bates,
well.
Matt
think-
Judon.
We're finally going to see what Drake London and Kyle Pitts can look like too in an offense where the quarterback can throw the ball down the field consistently. And then they have Bijan at running back too, who they sort of sheltered a little last year. If they really let him loose, the Falcons can surprise a lot of people, I think.
They've completely changed their team in a full 360, and I got them winning the division too, Garrett. I got the Saints in second. I got the Bucks in third and the Panthers in fourth. So just a little bit different with the second and third spot, but neither team in the second position, I think, for you aren't making the playoffs. I don't think you have the Bucks in the wild card now. So I got the Falcons in one, and I think they're very interesting. I love the Matt Judon addition that they've got. I think Jesse Bates is another good one, and Kirk Cousins is. I mean, you change your whole team when you just name those three guys, and they drafted Michael Penix, so they're trying to set up for the future and win now at the same time. It really could work out all together for the Falcons in a perfect way if Penix is the answer. If it works out with Cousins, if it works out with these defensive free agency additions, and they win the division and they make a playoff run, it could be a perfect format. There's also a lot of risk involved with that. You could end up paying Kirk Cousins a ton of money. He could get hurt. Michael Penix could be a terrible quarterback. He could be a bust. There's a terrible scenario for them where it doesn't work out. But
I like
We'll
that they
see.
went for it.
but we talk about when we talk about baseball in the MLB, how many owners do we talk about and teams in the NFL in the MLB, excuse me, that just sit back and go, we're content with whatever we got, or let's talk about the Cowboys. Yeah, we've won 12 games the past 3 years. We do nothing in the playoffs. Can't make it to an NFC Championship game. Now, we're just gonna run it back, kind of. And I think they got lucky in the draft, and that's the reason why I have them winning the division.
All right,
But that's not why.
Falcons here.
That's what MLB teams do. They just go, they'll sit back like the Reds. We're good. We got some superstar Ellie De La Cruz, but we're not gonna really do much. Like that was the Orioles for a while. That has changed a little bit. I think that it's something that throughout sports you'd like to have in an owner. So I can appreciate that from the Falcons.
Yeah, I love that the Falcons are going for it. And, a lot of NFL teams struggle to find one good quarterback, and the Falcons could have two, like you mentioned. So I'm really high on them, but it could also, like you mentioned,
It could blow up
it could
very
be
fast.
franchise altering in the wrong way.
Yeah,
Now
it could set you back like 5 years.
Now we'll be on our last division in the NFC West with, the 49ers. It just feels like they have this amazingly talented team every year now. I know some people aren't as high on Brock Purdy. I don't think he's elite, but I think he's good enough with what they have to win a Super Bowl, at least take them back there. I don't know. It feels like the Chiefs might just keep winning. The Rams, I think, are going to be in second this year. two reasons. One reason because I think, they're starting to mesh even more. Matthew Stafford was out a little last year. They have this just blossoming wide receiver 1 now in Puka Nakua, allowing Cooper Kupp to be the wide receiver 2.
You think he's the 2, even with healthy?
Yeah, even I know last year when he came back, he might not have been fully healthy, but Puka was still the 1 at the end of last year. And the second reason is because I'm just not high on the Seahawks. Geno Smith should not be the quarterback for this team anymore. That first year he had there, it was a nice little surprise, and I think it got Seahawks fans excited. I think last year we saw a little bit more of Geno, what Geno really is, and I think he's going to regress even more this year. And the Cardinals, what's the plan with the Cardinals? Is Kyler Murray going to be there for the long run? Is he a guy who you're giving one more year to? I don't really know what the Cardinals have going on, but it is going to be exciting to watch Marvin Harrison Jr. there. So I'm going Cardinals, then Seahawks, and then I'm throwing the Rams and the 49ers in the playoffs.
I'm going to go just a little bit different than you. I'm going to have the Cardinals in the 3rd and the Seahawks in the 4th. I think the Seahawks aren't good, and I like the Marvin Harrison Jr. thing. And Kyler's healthy, right? So we've seen the Cardinals have really good seasons with Kyler Murray for the first half. They were like undefeated for 7 games, I think, that one year in 2020.
One game they beat the Bills with the DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, that was 2020. They were also good in 2021. It's been a few years for the Cardinals, and it's been a few years for Kyler Murray since he's really played well. So I think they're going to get back to that. I think they're going to be a little bit good, a little bit better. And I could honestly see the ceiling for the Cardinals. I could see them being the 2nd team in this division. That's what my standpoint is. If everything goes well with Kyler, if he starts playing good at the quarterback position again, he's got a weapon now in Marvin Harrison, who I'm fairly confident in it being a good wide receiver in this NFL. And I'm not as high on the Rams as everyone else is, but I do have them in 2nd place, and I do have them making the playoffs. And then I got the Niners in 1st because that's what they've been able to do really well. And the question is, when is Christian McCaffrey kind of going to decrease his production and fall off a little bit? You see it with running backs. It eventually happens, especially when you get a workload like he's gotten. So it's a matter of time with them, with getting worse, in my opinion, because he's just the whole team and offense. Everything revolves right around him and Kyle Shanahan. It's not Brock Purdy commanding everything. It's kind of the compliments of Brock Purdy and the play-action pass and the hitting Deebo Samuel and hitting George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk, if he's even playing there. That's another question mark that they have.
I do think he's going to be playing.
I agree with you with that, but it's just more drama. It's kind of similar to the CD situation, except Ayuk has requested a trade multiple times now, and he's had opportunities to go elsewhere, and he hasn't. So that's something that's interesting, but I got them in the 1st place still.
Yeah, so for my playoff teams, I got the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Packers, Lions, and then the
Go by division winners.
And then so I got the Eagles, I got the Lions, I got the Falcons, and I got the 49ers, and then I got the Cowboys, the Packers, and the Rams.
Okay. So, oh geez, now I got to remember what all I said.
So you had the Cowboys.
I got the Cowboys. I got the Packers winning the division. I got
the Falcons and
the Falcons winning the division. The 49ers winning the division. Not any order to that, just division winners. And then my wild card teams.
You said the Rams.
Definitely the Rams.
Lions.
Oh, definitely. If we're gonna go in order, Lions.
I wasn't really going in order.
Lions.
And then Eagles. Are you throwing in or no?
Lions. Lions. Eagles. Rams.
Mm-hmm.
That's the order I'd go in. 5, 6.
So we have the same. I think
same teams, but just complete. This is more different than the AFC.
Yeah,
with
it's different order. And then for my surprise team, I think I got to go Commanders.
Although hold on, Garrett. Are these the same teams that were in the playoffs last year though? Not the Falcons. The Falcons, no.
The Buccaneers won the division.
Is that only one team that's a difference though? That's not.
Technically, yeah, but
I wonder how often it's only one team that doesn't.
Hey, are our predictions going to be right? Probably not. But
no, just look at our March Madness predictions. Those were terrible this year. We had like the same. We didn't even know. That was bad.
We try our best. There's just a lot of teams I'm not excited about. I don't think the Panthers or the Saints are going to surprise anyone and make.
Especially the NFC. It's very top. It's very top heavy.
The Giants. Do you want to pick them to go far? Like
the Commanders is the only team I could see getting like a 7th spot.
The Commanders are my surprise team just because of the quarterback and the potential I think he has. I don't think the Bears. I don't.
Oh, I could see the Bears.
Yeah, I could see the Bears
7th seed.
It's sneaking in the playoffs, but like in terms of winning a playoff game, I could actually see the Commanders doing it Just because I think Jaden Daniels' rookie year could be similar to C.J. Stroud's last year.
So that's your ceiling in the NFC.
Yeah, that's my surprise team would be the Commanders.
My surprise team, it's probably not so much of a surprise, but like, what if the Falcons like go to the NFC Championship game? Like, I feel like that is.
I already had them as my division winner, so I was like,
Yeah. I feel like that's a surprise though. Like,
Yeah.
we expect them to win the division. It's a weak division. It's not that good of a division, but it'd still be a surprise to me if they do well in the playoffs. I don't see that happening. Um, ano- another surprise would be if Dallas made it to the NFC Championship game. That might surprise anyone more than anything else. They haven't made it there in 30 years. That surprised me more than anything. I'll tell you that. That'd be my surprise. But I don't think it's gonna happen.
yeah, we'll see. It just, to me, it it feels like right now the Super Bowl favorites are the 49ers and the Chiefs again.
I don't have.
And-
See, I'm different on that.
Who would you put in the NFC?
I think the
Packers?
Packers are better. I think the Packers might be the one seed going into the playoffs. I think that they're primed for a playoff run,
Uh,
especially because we talked about with C.J. Stroud the second year jump. I know it's not his second year. I don't. How long has Jordan Love been in the league? Is his 5th season?
Yeah, this will be his 5th. I
It's-
think he sat at 3 and then last year.
That's wild.
First year
So
playing.
but there's still a jump because he was starting last year, and I think you could learn a lot from that.
And I guess I'll ask you one more question. Chiefs or the field? Who do you have winning the Super Bowl?
I'll pick the Chiefs. Give me the Chiefs because why not, right? Like the stats show me, Garrett, that 75% of the time over the past 4 years they have won the Super Bowl. So
That is true. Do you think Mahomes can flirt with Brady's number of 7?
7 is I don't know, 7 seems unreachable, but
I mean,
At the same
he went
time-
to 10. Mahomes has been to 4.
yeah, I think he can. I'll tell you this. I think he'll definitely get 5. Which is wild to say. The guy has
He's already got 3.
he's got yeah, but even winning 2 more Super Bowls, that's so hard. Like, but I think he'll do it. Will we see a three-peat? Probably not though.
Well, you just picked.
I Is there ever been a three-peat in the NFL of a Super Bowl? Actually, you know what? I'm gonna take the field then. Screw my pick. I said I'm picking the Chiefs. Blah, that stupid voice. I'm not doing that. I'm picking the field. I don't think there's ever been a three-peat in the NFL. Although at the same time, could we pick? It'd be kind
Not
of
to
fun
my knowledge.
to pick a three-peat.
Yeah, I don't know if it's fun watching the Chiefs win every year, but at the same point, it would be cool to see Mahomes catch Brady.
Well, I'll tell you this: if Dallas isn't in it and there's nothing going on, I'm rooting for Mahomes in the playoffs if he's in the Super Bowl or something like
You
that.
can pretty much pencil him in for the AFC Championship.
Yeah, they'll definitely get to the AFC champion. I'll take that over just about anything if you want to bet on it. They'll be in the AFC Championship game. Yeah, I'll take whatever. I'll take them. I don't know. I'm going back and forth. I'll take them to win the Super Bowl. If you're saying if there's any other team that I'm higher on, I'm not. That's just not true.
Yeah, I'll go field. It's not by a wide margin, and it's not me saying the Chiefs can't win it this year. I definitely think they can, and wouldn't be surprised if they do.
Well, obviously,
But
yeah.
There's 31 other teams. I think one of them can be good enough to beat the Chiefs on any given Sunday.
To that question, the smart answer is field.
Yeah.
But answer this question, Garrett. Is there any other team that you're as confident in? One individual team to beat to win the Super Bowl more
Well,
than the Kansas City Chiefs?
The team I'm most confident in to make the Super Bowl would be the Chiefs.
Right.
And to win it would be the Chiefs, but I'm picking the field because you pick the Chiefs, and
Why not? Yeah.
is it really that likely for them to win? I mean, who knows?
I don't know what to think with this. It's kind of crazy what we're
You
seeing.
just every year it feels like mid-season you want to point out these flaws with the Chiefs, and they're solved by the time the playoffs come.
And it's just because of Patrick Mahomes. Really, people are like, "Oh, stop glazing Mahomes. Stop doing this with Mahomes. Stop talking about Mahomes." He really is.
Him and Andy Reid they work so well together.
And I think it's even more Mahomes than it is Andy Reid. Andy Reid's a very good coach, but I just think it's Mahomes. He's just so talented. You look at the guy, he's got the Brady effect to the standpoint of his receivers last year were not good. He had dramatically worse receivers last year. And guess what? He has an aging Travis Kelce. And guess what? Does perfectly fine. Just wins a Super Bowl. Like, and now he's this weapon in Xavier Worthy. I think they're totally going to use him to their advantage. A 4.22 speed. Yeah, the guy has the Brady effect of, oh, Chris Hogan is like making catches in the Super Bowl. All right. That's what Brady did, and he had he had his guys with Edelman. He had his guys with Gronkowski. He just had his guys. And it's the same thing with Mahomes.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see how it looks if he's playing on the Chiefs with Andy Reid not being the coach and with Travis Kelsey not being there anymore.
I'd still
think-
love him.
I'm not saying the Chiefs are going to be bad or miss the playoffs or anything. I think they can still definitely win a Super Bowl. It's just his chemistry with Travis Kelsey is so good, where even if he doesn't have those wide receivers, he can still rely on Travis Kelsey. But even though
Why would
Travis-
Andy Reid leave? Why would he just keep coaching until Mahomes is
Travis
done?
Kelsey didn't even have a great season last year,
No, he
and the
wasn't
wide
even that good.
receivers weren't great, and he still won a Super Bowl. So
Yeah. It was the weirdest feeling ever. It
Yes.
felt like they weren't even that good last year, and they won the Super Bowl.
and then when it comes time to win in the playoffs, Mahomes is up there with the best of them.
Yeah, you looked at them in the regular season and go, they're beatable, right? They lost to the Raiders. They lost to the Raiders last year. Put that in your head.
And it was a painful game. It's not like the Raiders lit it up.
It was also in Arrowhead. It was the weirdest feeling ever.
Even the I know the Lions were good, but even that first game against the Lions, they looked bad.
Yeah, they won.
The Lions won.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Chiefs looked bad, and
I didn't think either team really looked that great in that game. I thought it was like a weird game.
It was a bad game, and we'll see. Maybe the Ravens will go into Arrowhead and win. Even then,
I could see that maybe. I could see
I
that.
could see them winning. Not in the playoffs. I don't see the Ravens going into Arrowhead and winning, but
No, but
I
if
could see it in the regular season.
but like if you wanted to talk about a scenario in the AFC in which a team does dethrone them to get to the Super Bowl, I could see the Ravens doing it maybe. I could see it. I could see it out of 1 out of 99 possibilities. Let's talk about it. Or 1 out of
I would
5
give,
possibilities.
I
I'd
would-
give the other 4 to the
I give the
Chiefs.
Bengals the best chance.
Really. I still think the Bills are dangerous too.
I-
With if
hard to
if
count out Josh
Keon
Allen.
Coleman's like some superstar receiver, we'll see. And Josh Allen, but I don't trust him in the playoffs really. I mean, sometimes he's good, sometimes he's not. It's just weird.
It was. Remember last year? I was, Mahomes has never played in the playoffs in Buffalo. You should see what we're gonna do to him. We're gonna throw snowballs at Taylor Swift.
Welp.
Mahomes marched in and he marched out, and the Chiefs were still playing, and the Bills were going home.
Yeah, that was not the exact thing the Bills were looking for.
I mean, he's what? He's already a top 5 quarterback of all time.
In my opinion, I think he's.
Top 2.
I think
top
he's
three.
I think he's the second best quarterback of all time. I'd take him over Peyton Manning. Already, he's got more Super Bowls than Peyton. Think about that, Garrett. He's got more Super Bowls than Peyton Manning. Somebody that was rivaled with Tom Brady, and people be like, you'd have an argument: who's better, Brady or Manning? Brady or Manning? Mahomes is better than him. Sorry, Peyton. You won 2 Super Bowls, 1 with the Colts, 1 with the Broncos. Mahomes has won 3 in 4 years, back-to-back years.
He has a good chance of catching Brady as well.
Well, we went through it all.
Yep.
That was
Hopefully they got
the
you guys
longest
fired
episode
up
ever.
for a football season.
Yeah. I'm ready for it. It's coming now. Always the last week. It's the 3rd week of preseason now. This is the last week.
I don't know why. It just feels like the NFL was so long ago. It feels like this stretch between football has felt really long to me. I don't know why.
For me, it was necessary. I needed it. I wanted to
Debrief.
not see anything about the Dallas Cowboys for a long time, and really, I didn't follow them that much going into this offseason because I was just so disappointed from last year.
Yeah, but every team starts out 0-0, so it'll be exciting.
In about 3 months, I'll be saying, "We them boys," and here we go into the playoffs and making my prediction for them to make some history and get to the NFC Championship game, and I'll be feeling confident. But hopefully, that's just the repeat of my life for the past 3 years now, as they've done the same thing. But that's the beauty of football season. Everyone gets hyped for their own team, for the most part. If you're a Raiders fan, I'm gonna tell you right now, you got no hope. That team is gonna be awful. They're gonna be terrible. They are going to be one of the worst teams this league has seen in a while since
Go-
like the Browns
They'll
teams.
play the Panthers 17
Yeah,
times.
Raiders and Panthers, good luck. But even better luck to the Panthers though, because they have an unknown at quarterback. I just think that Minshew and I think O'Connell should be the starter in my opinion, but whatever. I don't know why we're even talking about this. No one cares. Yeah, long episode, Garrett. Going off to college, but I'll definitely miss doing this with you. It's been such a fun time. I remember the first time we even did the podcast. Feels like it was like a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago. It hasn't felt like it's been almost 2 years now, and yeah, it's been a real ride.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a pleasure, doing it with you. We've had, some tremendous guests on, some other ones that have maybe angered us a little more. Colin Kubrich.
Oh
Just
yes,
throw that name out there.
what a throwback.
We even had Dino Falone on here for a soccer episode one time,
Had
and then
Nick Leonard on
you
for one
know,
episode.
Drew Carter. We've had J Mac. We've had Noah Eagle. Some of the better, more known, more well known out there. And shout out to Noah Eagle. He did a tremendous job doing the Olympics for NBC. And then Drew Carter with the Celtics this year. I think he's taken over the home games now as well. So it's we've had some tremendous guests, and hopefully we can continue to have more. I know you had a nice time with Kyle Yeomans as well,
Yeah,
fellow Cowboys extraordinaire. So
it was a
hopefully,
Cowboys episode.
hopefully it's still only up from here. Even though we're going off to college, we still want to come out with new content, produce new podcasts, and still get in touch with these wonderful broadcasters and people involved in sports all over the world.
I'll try to work my alumni network at Syracuse in the Newhouse family to get somebody um, for the future. Maybe this is not now. This is probably months ahead. Maybe the spring. Maybe next fall. Maybe next year. But or in the next coming years. But I think that's something that we could definitely do in the future, and that's something fun. And even to talk to those guys again, if we could get Noah on again, if we could talk to Drew again, I think that would be a blast as well. Just hear from them, and a lot's changed since we interviewed those guys. Noah got the big NBC deal. Before he even called any games for them when he did it. It was before he called the Olympics then for them. It was before Drew got the gig of being the voice of the Celtics on TV for NBC Sports Boston, which is coming up this upcoming season. So it's really cool to see young guys in the industry doing things like that. And obviously, we look at them as role models and just kind of like the blueprint of how to even get to something like that. And to Kyle as well, that's something that I would be super passionate about and dream of doing, of covering the Cowboys in a way like that. And that's why it's been super fun to go on this podcast with you, Garrett, and that's why we're going to continue to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
All right. Well, an hour and 12 minutes in, we're saying so long. Good night, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are, wherever you're listening. This is CR Sports Podcast, closing out and saying good night and so long one last time before college.